That Nagging Feeling by GeodesicDragon. Celestia sighed as she lowered the sun and raised the moon. For the last few hours, she had heard a voice in the back of her mind telling her that she was forgetting something, but she couldn't remember what.
What could it be?
She muttered to herself. She trotted back into the throne room as a guard appeared.
Something troubling you, Your Highness,
He said, noticing the concern on Celestia's face.
It's nothing important.
She replied as she sat down on her throne.
I'm just getting this awful feeling that I've forgotten to do something, but I can't for the life of me remember what it is.
The guard nodded.
I get that sometimes.
He said.
Usually I've forgotten to put my weapon back in the rack, or I've forgotten to clog off.
Celestia shook her head.
No, it's nothing like that.
She trailed off. The guard stood still, shifting his weight from hoof to hoof.
I'm going for a walk.
Celestia stood up.
Just to make absolutely sure I've double-checked everything.
Would you like some help?
The guard asked.
No.
Celestia waved her hoof dismissively.
You may take your leave. I'll be fine on my own.
As you wish, Your Highness.
The guard said, bowing deeply before leaving the room. Celestia followed and closed the doors behind her. She looked around and began thinking about all the places she'd been that day.
Let's see.
She said to herself.
I was at that meeting with my advisors earlier, so perhaps I left something in the meeting hall. I was also in the kitchen making sure we'd have enough provisions for winter.
She tapped her chin with her hoof, lost in thought.
I okayed a few new proposals at my desk at the Wonderbolts were showing at me their latest moves.
She sighed.
I guess I'll start at my desk. Although who knows what I could have forgotten there.
Celestia walked down the hall into a small room. She preferred working in an office, as she didn't want to clutter the throne room with the many reams of parchment she had to deal with. Lighting the candles on the wall with her magic, Celestia went to her own desk and sat down. There, she began rummaging through the many drawers, searching for anything that shouldn't be there. A minute later, she was done.
There's nothing here. I guess I'll try the meeting hall.
Extinguishing the candles, Celestia left the small office and walked further down the hall into a large room. In the middle of it was a large circular table. The Sun Princess walked around the table to a large chair which bore the same design as her cutie mark. Next to this was a smaller chair. She held out a hoof and rubbed it gently, her sister's absence still too much to bear. She lay down onto the floor and looked around for loose objects. All she saw was a couple of dust bunnies. With a low groan, Celestia stood upright.
Nothing here either!
She said out loud.
I'll try the kitchen.
No, Your Highness, said the head of the chef timidly. You didn't leave anything here. A faint trace of red appeared on Celestia's cheeks.
Are you sure, Flower Pot?
She asked, trying her best not to raise her voice at the defenseless stallion. Flower Pot nodded as fast as he could. I'm sure, Your Highness, he squeaked. I always conduct checks for stray items, for safety purposes. The color vanished from Celestia's cheeks as she sighed, the hot air escaping from her mouth causing Flower Pot's mane to rustle.
I guess I'll try the stadium then,
She said.
Thank you for your time, Flower Pot. And I apologize for being so rude.
It's no problem, Princess, he said, shaking like a leaf. I understand what you're going through. I often find myself thinking I've left the ovens on too, or the fridge open. Celestia smiled and left the kitchen, cursing under her breath.
Lost items?
The Pegasus asked, rubbing his chin.
Sorry, Princess, but anything that gets lost up here tends to fall down there. What with this being clouds and all.
He pointed to the ground.
I never realized that horsepower.
Celestia replied.
I guess I must have been imagining that I forgot something. My mind was probably playing tricks on me.
Probably.
Horsepower said, laughing weakly.
And you're sure you've retraced your steps for today?
Celestia nodded.
I have.
She said.
I've been to my office, the meeting hall, the kitchens, and here.
Horsepower looked at the princess with a raised eyebrow.
Nowhere else?
he said, making a circular motion with his hoof. Celestia looked at him blankly.
What are you getting at?
She asked. Horsepower groaned and pondered his best choice of words.
Aside from your duties as princess,
He said eventually.
what else do you do?
Well, apart from my duties as princess, I also...
She trailed off as her eyes widened in horror.
I think you get it now.
Horsepower said with a sly smile. With a mighty leap, Celestia propelled herself into the sky, flying at breakneck speeds.
Of all the things you could forget,
She scolded herself.
this has to be the worst.
Landing on the balcony of her throne room, she ran through it in another room nearby. Lighting the candles, the princess nervously looked around. Her eyes soon fell on the cause of her concerns. Sealing herself, Celestia went over to the corner of the room, where a purple filly unicorn was fast asleep, standing slumped against the wall. She shook her gently.
Okay, Twilight.
She said in a motherly tone as she could muster. The little filly rubbed her eyes and yawned as she was woken up. Upon seeing the princess, she smiled sheepishly. Celestia gave Twilight an apologetic look and put on her biggest smile. Her eyes shone with compassion. Motioning towards the filly's bedroom, Celestia spoke to her again.
I think you've learned your lesson.
The end.